All right, First Samuel 5, let's call this one Uncertainty, subtitle it How, as in how do we get over all of this misery? Understanding in the past, we talked about not every win being an actual win. Understanding that the way you win a lot of times has to do with whether or not you're going to get to enjoy your victory. And so the Philistines here, even though God has given Israel into their hands, they are going to go too far when they take the Ark of the Covenant as spoil of the battle, because every town they bring the Ark to is going to face misery. And so they are going to quickly realize that their misery started around the time they captured and housed the Ark. And so by the time it gets to a city by the name of Ekron, they're going to be like, why'd you send it here? We didn't ask for it. And so, even though they don't want it, their misery is also going to be increased, just as the previous cities, Gath and Ashdod, had their misery increased when they tried to house the ark as their own possession. But one thing is going to be different about the city of Ekron. They're going to say something around verse 11, and they're going to make it known that they don't want it. And not only do they not want it, they're going to say, let it return to its own place. And in doing that, there's going to be something different about the misery that comes to Ekron. And that's going to be in the last verse of the chapter, where it's going to say, the cry of the city went up to heaven, seeming to understand, at least the Philistines, seeming to understand something it's been difficult for God to communicate to his people, meaning you will not get God to hear your prayers on your own terms. And so they are realizing that it needs to go back to its proper place. And at the point they realize it, the passage notes that their prayer goes up to heaven, which reminded me so much of what the prophet Isaiah is going to say to Israel generations later when he tells them about the woes of false fasting in a passage entitled True and False Fasting in Isaiah 58, which simply says, cry aloud, do not hold back. Lift up your voice like a trumpet. Declare to my people their transgression, to the house of Jacob their sins. Yet they seek me daily and delight to know my ways, as if they were a nation that did righteousness and did not forsake the judgment of their God. They ask of me righteous judgments. They delight to draw near to God. Why have we fasted and you see it not? Why have we humbled ourselves and you take no knowledge of it? Behold, in the day of your fast you seek your own pleasure and oppress all your workers. Behold, you fast only to quarrel and to fight and to hit with a wicked fist. Fasting like yours this day will not make your voice be heard on high. Is such the fast that I choose? Verse 5. A day for a person to humble himself? Is it to bow his head like a reed and to spread sackcloth and ashes under him? Will you call this a fast and a day acceptable to the Lord? Is not this the fast that I choose? To loose the bonds of wickedness, to undo the straps of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house? When you see the naked, to cover him and not to hide yourself from your own flesh? Then shall your light break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up speedily. Your righteousness shall go before you. The glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. Then you shall call, and the Lord will answer. You shall cry, and he will say, here I am. If you take away the yoke from your midst, the pointing of the finger, and the speaking wickedness, if you pour yourself out for the hungry and satisfy the desire of the afflicted, then shall your light rise in the darkness and your gloom be as the noonday. And the Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your desire in scorched places. Understand that the Philistines got it. You are not going to have your prayers heard on your terms. If you are seeking help from God, he is only willing to listen on the condition, as we've been saying in previous chapters, that you just resolve to be a decent person. So when I use that as my term, Isaiah 58 gives you a detailed illustration of the things that God describes as some of the detailed components of being a decent person. One whose prayers, this passage says, can actually be heard on high, which is why we often say his best to you as you go forward in him. God willing, not seeking God's help in vain.